I'm Soledad O'Brien. Welcome to Matter of Fact. We're now less than 6 months away from the midterm general election on November 6th. Democrats need to only pick up 2 seats to win control of the Senate, 23 congressional seats to take control of the House. So those Democrats should have plenty of reasons to be optimistic. Historically, the party in power loses seats in Congress. The president's party has only picked up seats in midterm elections in 1934, when Franklin Roosevelt was president, 1998, during Bill Clinton's second term, and 2002 under George W. Bush. Plus, President Trump's approval has been hovering around 40%. But the president's been hitting the campaign trail, trying to rally his base.
With your help, with your voice, and with your vote, we will win, win, win.
Even experienced Democrats are now shying away from earlier predictions of a so-called blue wave. Joining me to dig into the midterm outlook, Nayetta Hack is a Democratic strategist. She worked for the Obama administration. And John Fury is a longtime Republican strategist. Nice to have you both with me. All right, so let's begin with this idea of the blue wave that's now like the blue, what's a lighter version?
Ripple?
Ripple, the blue ripple. Why are both Republicans and Democrats backing away from this sense of a wave? Nayetta, why don't you start?
So I do think that there will be a Democratic majority in the House come November 2018. I think there's 2 things at play in how Democratic officials are talking about it. They don't want to oversell that this is a guarantee that when this is going to happen and not have voters turn out, because this absolutely depends on voter enthusiasm. We are also seeing voter enthusiasm in ways we hadn't before. For Democrats to win, at least in the House, they'll need to be able to turn out the suburban voters who are, let's call them like the white suburbanite Mitt Romney type voter, as well as the more traditional blue collar workers. And then in the metropolitan centers where they are traditionally diverse, more diverse populations. Those diverse populations tend to not vote in midterm elections. But again, this is not your standard election year. We have more than 30 Democrats have won in down ballot races. That's like county commissioner, school board, all these positions that people never cared about voting before. So I don't think polling that we're seeing right now is accounting for not just the enthusiasm, but this new relationship people feel that they have with government.
So, John, do you agree that it's not going to be a blue wave? And if it's not going to be a blue wave, do Republicans feel like this is going to be a walk in the park?
Well, I think there are 3 elements you have to look at in this campaign: money, map, and message. On the money front, Republicans and Democrats are basically tied. Both campaigns, both sides will have plenty of money. Map, the Republicans have a significant advantage at the Senate level. They also have a significant advantage when it comes to the House because of redistricting. And the third thing is the message. The message for the Democrats is going to probably be impeachment and repeal the Trump tax cuts. I'm not sure if that, I remember working for the Republicans in 1998 when we put all of our eggs in impeaching Bill Clinton. And it simply just does not work as a message. If the Democrats want to have a winning message, they have to get more into, they have to break through the media clutter, which is all on Russiagate, and talk about things like health care, which they're having a hard time breaking through on.
Is it smart for Democrats to say, let's embrace impeachment, let's embrace everybody who hates Donald Trump and go forward with a "we hate Donald Trump" message? Is that a winning message?
No. And Nancy Pelosi has herself, and she can be a lightning rod for many people on the left and right, but she is a very savvy legislator and campaigner, and openly said that it is not going to be about impeachment. It is going to be about our social values and how we come together as a community, and also how we need to, again, the economic message, which is going to be critical.
Well, the economic message. Can we talk about economics? I mean, when you poll people on the economy, I don't feel, poll numbers show that they don't think the economy's doing that well. And the recent tax cut, they don't feel like, oh my God, that has been the impact
of the tax cut that they expected.
Exactly.
Well, I think if you look at small business confidence, you look at a lot of different indicators about the economy, people feel much more confident about where the economy is and where it's going. And that confidence does help inspire voters. I think if you think about the Democratic strategy, the Democrats are nominating a lot more progressive candidates in districts where they don't need progressive candidates to win. The progressives now are winning those primaries overwhelmingly, and that is not going to play well in a general election. I will say one other point about general elections, or midterm elections. younger voters typically do not come out to vote in midterm elections. This is a real challenge for the progressive wing.
So I love predictions. Let's talk predictions. What do you think could happen?
Well, I think we gain 3 or 4 seats in the Senate. I think we lose probably around 9 to 10 seats in the House, and both chambers stay Republican.
I think Republicans keep the Senate. Democrats win the House by a small majority, so not a supermajority that will make passing legislation easier, but it will certainly be part of the holding Trump accountable effort.
Interesting to see. Nice to have you guys. Thanks, as always.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.